Hey gang, this is Mike with my Real Estate Dojo, and today I want to talk about a very important subject to help you guys understand why the grass is so green in America. And the subject is a comparison between a traditional real estate investor versus a creative real estate investor. So again, I'm going to do a comparison between a traditional real estate investor versus a creative real estate investor like myself. Um, Stand right here, buddy. All right, so I kind of just did a quick sketch. I always freestyle, but I want to make sure I don't miss any of my points. It's like little doodles, um, no PowerPoints or anything like that. I like to speak out of with my heart. So let's talk about the traditional, okay? The, the way the traditional real estate investor buys properties, for a couple of examples would be they go to the foreclosure auction, okay? And well, they stand there with a bunch of other investors and they basically fish at the same exact pond, looking at the same exact fishes in a small container. And they bid, whoever pays the most gets it. It's kind of like a car auction if you ever guys been to a car auction. Um, Another way a traditional investor gets their deals is through a realtor. You know, they go out there and they offer a bunch of lowball offers on real estate properties, um, and hopefully they'll find a motivated seller. Okay. A third way they get properties is, for example, to buy, let's say, off of HUDs or REIs, bank-owned properties. Again, they hire a realtor and they just put offers into a system. So the way they find deals is not very sophisticated. You know, that's why I call it the traditional way. They all line up in a certain way, like a machine, and if you do these little mechanical moves, you may find a deal. Okay. Now let's compare that a traditional real estate investor to a creative real estate investor, and how a creative real estate investor finds deals. The way I find deals is that the people that I target is one type of person. I'm only dealing with the seller or the property owner. Again, I only deal with the property owner or the seller. I don't deal with realtors. I don't deal with realtors. I don't go hire a realtor to go find a property. I don't, you know, I don't do none of that kind of crap. What I do is I I market specifically to sellers, and I use different lists, different types of marketing strategies to find motivated sellers. Okay, your question is, well, Mike, how do I do that? That's a very good question. Get on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ my real estate dojo, and then search for, I have two videos that teaches you how to market. Video number one is if you're an investor, you don't have money, um, search for 42 ways to find a motivated seller for free or almost for free. I tell you 42 ways that I've used in the past where you don't have to spend any money or very small amount of money, like dollars, to get a deal. If you're an investor that has money, then search for 38 ways to find a motivated seller, and I tell you 38 ways where you can spend money to get a return on your investment. Okay? So now what I'm doing is I'm comparing how does a traditional real estate investor finds a deal compared to how a creative real estate investor like myself finds a deal. And a creative real estate investor does not deal with the realtor, absolutely not, nothing. They don't um, do what other traditional people do. They don't take the traditional path. They take paths like this, where there is no highways and you have to go off-roading and you got to have the right equipment. But on the end, you get a lot much bigger return of your investment. There's much more less risk, and you're totally in control. Okay, which is a great thing. So creative real estate investor only deals with motivated sellers. They target to find motivated sellers, and they catch the fish or the tail before, at the very top, before it goes to a HUD, before it goes to a REI, before the bank forecloses on it, before it's at the auction. So that's the difference. Is with a creative real estate investor, you're able to find a seller before the house goes to foreclosure and work crazy uh, returns on your money. Even not use your own money. Use the seller's existing loan or use other creative financing strategies, which I do have videos all on my YouTube channel. Okay, for example, the 7 different types of owner financing that you can use with these motivated sellers. Now, these creative financing options where you don't have to use your own money, you don't have to use your own credit, only work with the creative side of investing. They don't work with, with the bank. You can't go to a bank or a HUD and say, well, hey, Mr. Bank, I want to just give you $1 up front and let you do owner financing without a non-recourse loan. I don't want to use my credit. And they're gonna laugh at you and say, get the fuck out of here. They're not even gonna fuck with you. Does that make sense? So where the creative side, you're able to do all these, anything you can imagine. That's why it's called creative, to turn nothing into something. It's kind of like the alchemist formula. Okay. So now I talked about basic, how do you find a deal versus a traditionally versus a creative way. How do they find deals? Okay. Creative, they don't use realtors. They don't use a traditional way to find deals. They use guerrilla marketing tactics, or if they have money, they do other types of marketing and they just deal with the sellers. Now, the next point is very important, okay, which is how do they fund deals? For example, a traditional investor, how does he fund his deals versus a creative investor? Okay, now a traditional investor will use basically 3 different ways to fund the deal. A, he'll have all cash, which very few amount of people have it, but let's say some people do. Okay. 2, they'll do a traditional loan. What I mean is they'll go to a Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, maybe get a home for themselves, and lie to the bank, and then turn around and rent it out. Or they may not lie and get it a legitimate commercial loan that says, hey, I'm not gonna live in here, and I'm gonna rent it out, and they're gonna get a traditional loan, okay, which is the second way. The third way is what I call untraditional, which means that they're going to go to a hard money lender, okay, which is going to charge them like anywhere from 14 to 18%. They're going to charge them points, like you got to pay, if you're going to borrow, let's say $100,000, they want 4 points. That means you got to pay $4,000 up front, 18% interest, etc. Or they may, another untraditional way to fund or to get money is to use, for example, your friends and family, for them to get all together to get the sum of money. Or another way is to get a bunch of investors together and use their pool of money. Okay, so a traditional investor, when they get a loan, basically what's going to happen is they have to put their Social Security up in jeopardy. Okay, and what I mean is they have to sign a personal note if they get a loan from a lender. And what happens is their debt to income ratio is affected by that. Okay, or they have to have all cash. Okay, now a traditional investor is in a disability, because if they only have so much cash, they can only buy so many property, or if they're a disability because they're at the mercy of the lender. Like, please, can I get another house? Please, can I? And they have to wait for the lender to approve them, to do the inspection, to do the evaluation of the property. What is the value of it before the bank says yeah or nay? So there's a lot of like begging, and you're like babysitted by your older brother, which is like the bank in this case. So you don't have much freedom, dude. Okay. And same thing with if you partner up with people. But a creative investor, the way they fund their money is, first, they could use all cash. But usually, for example, with me, I don't use all my cash to buy a deal unless it's a home run. Unless it's like, for example, the market is hot and I'm gonna buy the house at 50 cents on a dollar minus repairs, or I'm gonna buy it at 45 cents on a dollar minus repairs, or I'm gonna buy something that's crazy hot. Then I'll use all of my cash. But usually, what I do is I use what's called owner financing or seller carry, and I use those strategies to buy properties. And what that does for me is a lot of advantages. Okay, I'm gonna run through a couple of them. Number one is that it doesn't affect my social, or it doesn't affect my debt to income ratio, because I never put my social security up or my company EIN number up, employee identification up to get a loan. So when somebody runs my company's credit or runs my credit, that debt is not associated with me. Okay, so that's a very, very powerful thing. Number two is that I get a non-recourse loan, which means that if I default on the property, the seller agrees to not come sue me uh, for you know deficiency or anything like that. All they're gonna do is just take the collateral back, which is in this case the property. Very, very powerful way to structure a deal, which you could not get with a traditional um, investor. They could never get a non-recourse loan. Okay, very, very, very small probability, small percentage of banks do that. Okay, so they could never negotiate any of the stuff we're going to negotiate on this side. Okay, like creative financing. Um, Now, on the seller side, some of you might be thinking, well, if you do creative financing, well, small percent of people have owned the house free and clear. What happens if they have a loan? Very good question. When you do creative financing, there's basically two ways that happen. You talk to a seller, they own the house free and clear, okay? Or you talk to a seller, the house has a mortgage. Either way, I've learned how to structure a deal to still do owner financing. If they own the house free and clear, perfect, beautiful. If they have a mortgage on the property, perfect, beautiful. There's different strategies that I've showed on my YouTube channel to how to get these properties. Okay, so the way a creative real estate investor funds the deals is not by using his own money. They don't use their own credit. What they do is they use the seller's underlying mortgage if the seller has a loan, or if the seller doesn't have a loan, they have the seller carry the note. Okay, and some of you will say, well, Mike, why would the seller want to sell their house this way? And I've done many different videos about what is a motivated seller and why sellers like this are going to be out there. No matter the economy is good, like today, or shitty as hell, okay, they're always going to be out there because of the level of motivation. But I could run through some of them, like um, death in the family, job loss, divorce. Some of these things cause motivation, okay? And sellers now are willing to do things that they wouldn't do before because they want to get out of the situation emotionally or financially, okay? I don't want to go really deep into it because I have videos that explain that. All right. Excuse me. Now, I talked about the two different ways real estate investors fund their properties. If they're traditionally, they go with a bank, hard money lender, something like that. They sign up their social security, they put their name on the line, they put their credit on the line, they have to borrow the money or they'll just pay cash, okay? And they got to come with all the money. A creative real estate investor, they don't use their own money, or they use very little of it. They don't use their own social security or their company credit, EIN. They're not gonna they're gonna structure the deal with they put the least amount of money into the property as possible. They're in full control on how to close it, when they're gonna close it, how they're gonna negotiate it. So they're free. Where on the traditional side, you're like a little bitch and you're like, oh please bank, can you please qualify me for another loan, in a sense. Okay, so I talked about the funding difference. Okay, now let's talk about the side effect. Okay, I've already hit on this a couple of times, but I want to explain just a little bit more. The side effect of a traditional investor is that, you know, even though they're on the not in the box type of individuals, they're outside, they don't have a job, they're out there making a grind, they're not getting the best deals out of there. They're having the highest amount of risk because they have to put all their money, big sums, or they have to sign their own credit. And it's the traditional way to do it. They have to pay all these realtor fees. They have to be at the mercy of the bank. They have to hope this happens, that happens. So some of the side effect is that there's so many loops and there's so much risk, right? But you can make good money. But you're gonna need a lot of money. to make good money, and it closes the door of opportunity for the average person, like a college, high school kid, or a college kid, or a mom, a single mom, or you know, uh, some immigrants that came here. It closes that opportunity because most people are not going to have that 150 or 200 or half a million or a million. Depends what part of the state you are in and how much houses cost in their bank to buy property. Okay, but this other way that I've created and that I implement called creative financing, okay, the side effect on this one is really not much. It's all positive. It's like you have nothing to lose and everything to gain because the side effects is that you're able to buy a property. It doesn't matter if you want to do fix and flips, if you want to be a landlord like me, buy and hold, whatever the fuck you want to do, you're able to buy properties without using your own credit, without using, you know, a large sum of money. So if the house is worth 200, you don't have to give the seller 200. You might be able to give the seller $0 or a dollar or $100 or $1,000 or 2 grand down or whatever. Okay, so you don't have to come up with a lump sum of money. You don't have to use your own credit. You don't have to go to a bank and please, or beg other family members if they're willing to give you money so you could buy some property and put other people's money in risk, like your family members. So you're at total control, and most importantly, the risk factor is so little. So, for example, if you, as a traditional investor, if you go buy a fix and flip, let's say the property's worth 100, okay, and you buy for fucking 50, and you got to put 30,000 into it, and you're at 80, then there's so many factors. You have so much of your money into it, and there's so many factors that you're hoping the market doesn't crash. It sells very fast. It's not on the market for a very long time because all those things cost money. So there's so many variables that can decrease your profit. Where if you go on the other side as a creative real estate investing, you could buy the same exact house, do fix and flip. Instead of coming with the 50 and the 30 to fix it, you could probably negotiate some kind of deal where, well, you give the seller no money to you, they give you the property, you rehab the property, and then when you sell it, then you give them some money. That way, you don't have to come up with the 50. The seller just lends you the money and you don't make any payments till he sells the property. That's just one way to structure a deal. Or you could just structure where he gives you the deed and you just start making the monthly payments, and then you turn it around and fix it up and sell it and you make all the profit. Or, you give him a couple of grand in his pocket. I mean, there's so many different ways to structure. It depends on the deal and the house and the location and PITI and what the rent comps are, etc. But I'm just giving you an example. So on a creative real estate investor category or side, your ability to have so lower amount of risk is just crazy. I mean, you have so little risk. Now, of course, you're gonna have risk, dude. To be an entrepreneur, to be a real estate investor, it's fucking risky, dude. I mean, for me to come out here and enjoy this beautiful view, it's risky. I could fall down here and fucking die, dude. But sometimes you have to take risks if you want to enjoy the fruits of Mother Earth, our purpose on Earth. Okay, so I'm not telling you to take a risk, but I'm just letting you know the facts that if you want to go to the gym and you want to lose weight, there's a chance that you might strain your muscle, you might pull your muscle. So there is those things, okay? But the benefit, in my mind, compared to straining my muscle is so much more. By working out, I'm gonna get so much more benefits than hurting myself. Okay, so that's why I do that. Same thing with real estate investing. There's always a risk, no matter which one you do. If you do traditional or if you do creative, but in my mind, the risk on this is so little compared to this because I don't have to come up with all my money up front. I don't have to put my own credit up there, and so on and so on. So, as a creative real estate investor, you don't have to put your credit in. You don't have to come up with all the large sum of money. You're in total control when you want to close on the deal. How you're going to close it? Are you going to have an inspection? Are you going to buy title policy? You know, etc., etc., etc. How much money are you going to get settled? Non-recourse loan. Okay. And then the return is so much because, for example, if you watch my videos, I've done many deals now that I've closed where I've given the seller $1, and then I rent the property out, made like $500 monthly cash flow. I rented it out 5-6 years, and then sold it, and easily made $60,000, $70,000, And then that doesn't even include the monthly cash flow, because if I add that on top of it, you can see that just a couple of grand, a dollar or $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, to put the deal together for the seller, create a win-win situation. After babysitting it for a certain period of time, I was able to make easily $100,000. Where the guy here, as a traditional investor, he's gonna go to the auction. There's gonna be so many other fucking dudes out there bidding on the shit, or girls bidding on the shit, jacking up the fucking price. The risk is so much. You have to do your own title search before you go up there. You got to make sure, are you buying the first note, are you buying the second note? It's so complex in such a short period of time. um, where on this side it's not like that. You have all the time in the world you want. It's going on. You're in total control. We're talking about the risk. This guy's gonna have to put money to buy the property, money to rehab it, the carrying fees, put his credit up on line, and he's probably only gonna make, if he's doing a fix and flip, 10, 20. Where the example I was just giving you on a deal that I've done, give the seller $1, babysit this house for fucking anywhere from like 4 to 7 years. Fucking, by the time you sell, you make 60 grand, 70 grand in equity because the renter paid off the fucking rent. Meanwhile, you have 400, 300, 200, 500 monthly cash flow, depends on the property. And you add that shit up for the amount of times you owned it, okay? That's after paying your taxes, after paying your insurance, after paying principal, after paying interest, PITI. You have a positive cash flow of 400, 500. You do that times 12, times 5 years. So you can see that's a big chunk of money, dude. And meanwhile, you're getting the depreciation. You're getting the interest write-off because every year the bank sends you a 1099 and you're going to get the write-off, especially if you bought it subject to. So there's so many different benefits. The renter's paying off your fucking debt liability. And so there's appreciation that's happening. I teach you to buy in pretty areas. So appreciation is happening. The renter's paying off your debt and your equity just going up. Sure, there's a lot of fucking headaches dealing with deadbeat renters. I'm not gonna lie to you, but hey, do you want to invest $1 and then wait 5, 6, 7 years, make $400 or $500 a month for 5, 6, 7 years, and then make 60, 70,000? Does that sound like a good plan to you? Versus going and getting in debt 100,000 to make 20 grand. Which one sounds better? Which one do you think is more riskier, dude? Okay. Now you could do the same exact thing with the fix and flip. The same exact thing. If the guy owes 50, they're buying it for 50 at the auction, and this guy owes 50, then you could just buy a subject to, or you could do a note like I talked about earlier, where you pay him later, you pay him now, whatever. So however you want to structure it, and then you don't have to come up with the 50. You just maybe come up with the fucking repair cost, the 20 grand or 30 grand. Okay. So this guy has to come up with the 50 or the 30. That's 80,000. You only have to come up with 30. Which one do you think you can make more money off of? All right. Or you can structure where you don't have to come up with anything. You just wholesale it out to somebody. It depends on what your exit strategy is. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is, you guys live in the best country ever, America. There's a lot of people going to tell you, no, you can't do this, like realtors, like your friends, your family. And you have the opportunity to listen to those people, but look around and see where they are in life. Are they dream chasers, or are they just in denial where you can't do it? This is the best country ever. People want to migrate here. You live here. Go chase your dreams and don't take no for an answer, guys. Go ahead and, if you like my videos, please like, please share, please comment. See you later, gang. How long was it?